Richard. Paul Huffman on line 1.
Hello, Paul. How are you?
Richard, hi. Yeah, listen, I got a situation here that I don't quite know how to deal with. A customer reported one of my drivers smoking marijuana. I sent 2 of my supervisors out to check him out, and they say he appears to be okay. As a matter of fact, the driver says he rolls his own cigarettes and willingly gave them his tobacco to check out. I mean, how do you think I ought to handle this? And is there just cause to take him out of service? And what about testing him?
Well, let's see. First, I think you did the right thing by checking out this driver immediately, but it doesn't appear to me that you have reasonable cause in this incident. To begin with, neither you nor your supervisors saw him smoking anything. And you really don't know the motivation of the customer in reporting this guy. Secondly, you tell me your supervisors say that he seems fine and that he's not at all impaired to drive. So I think you have a situation here that you need to go slow on. Now, I recommend that you document the incident and that you continue to observe his performance for a time. And also, it would probably be a good idea to check out his tobacco, with his permission, of course.
So it's okay to let the driver continue his route?
Yes. In my opinion, you just don't have reasonable cause.
Okay, Richard, thanks a lot. Listen, I got to get back to my 2 supervisors. They're still out on the road with the driver, and they're waiting for my direction, so I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Company received information that could indicate a reasonable cause situation. Regardless of the source, it's the manager's responsibility to check out the information. But legally, this is hearsay, and it happens all the time in companies. Because no supervisor directly saw what took place. To protect your driver and your company, you must proceed confidentially. In this scene, our actor supervisors did a number of things right when they checked out the situation. First off, when the driver was contacted over the company radio, he was asked to pull over. No explanation other than just wait was given. This is a way to protect your driver so that anyone else on the channel doesn't jump to conclusions. Also, after reaching the driver and confronting him with a report, the supervisor used an outside phone line instead of the truck radio to report back. Why? Because it ensured confidentiality. In this case, it was not a reasonable cause situation. The driver's performance record was fine. He didn't appear impaired. He was cooperative and presented a reasonable explanation that could be backed up. This situation just wasn't what it originally appeared to be. In any event, it's always appropriate to contact your company's legal counsel for direction when you're not sure how to proceed. As for this scene, the attorney advises the manager to closely monitor the driver for a period of time to alleviate the manager's concerns about misjudging the situation. Well, we've shown you a number of situations and their consequences, and the appropriate choices a supervisor should make. No matter what action you take, keep 2 things in mind. 1, that your company will support you. After all, it's their goal to maintain a safe, alcohol and drug-free workplace. If you have reasonable basis to believe someone is using or possessing alcohol or a controlled substance, it's imperative that you take some action so that person is not in a position to harm himself, other employees, your customers, or the public. 2, make sure that you record and document every contact you have with individuals in this area. If you send an employee or independent contractor for testing based on reasonable basis to believe, write down in detail exactly what that person said and did to give you the reasonable basis. Within 24 hours, write down exact times and dates and any and all witnesses. Even if you decide not to send someone for testing, Write down the date you spoke with the person and some notes as to what the person said. Such documentation is required by DOT regulations, and it's also very important if your company decides to take further action against an employee or independent contractor. Toleration of drugs in the workplace by doing nothing or ignoring the problem constitutes a breakdown of responsibility on the part of management. In fact, in court, both a company and its management may be held liable for failing to act in both the employees' and the public's interest by not challenging alcohol and drug problems in the workplace. In other words, you could be guilty because you knew there was a problem, yet took no action. These tapes and your own company's EAP program are here to help you take the right action, to help guide you in the implementation of an effective and fair substance abuse program. But remember, before you do anything, know your company's substance abuse program, and if you have any questions, clarify them. We all want a safe and healthy place in which to work, so stand up and be counted. This is the alcohol supplement video, the What You Need to Know About DOT Alcohol and Drug Testing video training series. It's designed to be used with a leader guide in the DOT Alcohol and Drug Rules Handbook. It will help you meet the 60 minutes of alcohol training that is required for supervisors under the new alcohol and drug testing rules. Let's hear from Donna Smith, the Department of Transportation's Director of Drug Enforcement and Compliance. She'll give you some information on the enactment of the law and the Department of Transportation's involvement.
The intent of the rule, it's a prevention measure. It's to prevent alcohol misuse and illegal drug use by transportation workers who are serving the public in safety-sensitive functions. It's really a comprehensive program that involves employee education, supervisory training and education, very clear delineated standards of conduct relative to alcohol and drug use, and it does include testing as a measure of both deterrence and detection. And lastly, but certainly I think in many ways most importantly, is that it provides a number of opportunities for employees who do have a problem with alcohol or drugs to obtain assistance or help in resolving those problems. One of the things that I frequently hear people say is, oh, this is the Volstead Act, revisited. We're back into the days of prohibitions and speakeasies and that kind of thing, and nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, in crafting the rules, we were really very conscious of the difference between illegal drugs and alcohol as a legal substance. So consequently, the regulations prescribe very specifically what kind of alcohol use is prohibited, and it's linked directly to performing safety functions, safety jobs. So it's not that if you decided to be a truck driver or an airline pilot, that you could never have a beer again. But in fact, what it says is that if you have decided to be a truck driver or an airline pilot, there are certain times and conditions under which you cannot have that beer in relationship to performing your job. There are basically 5 kinds of conduct associated with alcohol that are prohibited under these regulations. The first of these is having an alcohol concentration of 0.04 as measured by a breath alcohol test device at any time just before, during, or after the duty day. Secondly is that there's a requirement that you cannot consume any alcohol within 4 hours of driving your vehicle. Thirdly, it is prohibited for a driver to drink alcohol after an accident until he or she has been tested, if testing is going to be required in that accident situation, as we discussed previously. Fourthly, a driver cannot consume any alcohol at all while on duty. You'd be amazed at the number of people that say, well, hey, it's okay if I just take a few sips every now and then as long as I'm not getting quote-unquote drunk. But again, for purposes of safety, any consumption of alcohol while on duty is prohibited. The last prohibited conduct is not relative to alcohol specifically, but I think it's important to mention that a refusal to test under these rules, if a driver refuses to take an alcohol test for any reason when one is required, that's really the same as having a positive alcohol test because the driver would be removed from driving. The consequences for a driver having .02 up to .04 are severe. They do require that a driver be held out of driving service for at least 24 hours. The only difference here is that once the driver has completed that 24 hours out of service, he or she may return to driving duties without having undergone treatment or rehab and the other return to duty requirements that we've mentioned. I think one of the central things that people ask a lot about these rules is, what's .02 alcohol concentration mean? What does .04 alcohol concentration mean in terms of drinking? And there's no solid rule of thumb because a person's metabolism of alcohol varies from individual to individual. Your liver may be healthier than mine. Your body weight is different than mine. The way that you consume alcohol in relationship to types of foods may be different. But I think it's safe to say that a .02 alcohol concentration really requires or allows very little consumption of alcohol before that level is reached in the bloodstream and in the breath. So, for example, a 140 to 160 pound individual in consuming as little as 2 beers or 2 glasses of 4-ounce wine or 2 shots of 86 proof distilled spirits will be at .02 or above. I think another kind of myth is that, well, if I'm a big man or a big woman, meaning that I've got a little more fat than the Surgeon General thinks I ought to have, and I weigh, instead of 160, I weigh 220, but I am in fact obese, that I can double all of those. That's not true. So it's real important, I think, to recognize that really very, what we might consider not terribly significant amounts of alcohol ingested prior to safety-sensitive functions do, in fact, measure at a .02 or above.
Now that you have some background on the new law, let's look at a series of live action scenes that show you how the law can affect you at work. There are scenes concerning reasonable suspicion, post-accident, return to duty, and random selection. These scenes are designed to allow you the opportunity to make decisions about what you would do before you are faced with a similar situation at work. If you haven't received training in the first series, Need to Know, Substance Abuse, you need to review the 4-step confrontation process. Identify, document, confirm, confront. In the first action scene, we'll identify the signs and symptoms associated with alcohol misuse and review the confrontation process.
$2,099 going to Fresno.
No way. This driver seems really out of it today. Have you noticed anything before?
He used to be one of my best drivers, but he's been having problems at home. Lately, it's been hard to talk to. He even gives other drivers a bad time. But he's been around a long while, and he makes good time.
Hey! He's got to be talked to. The way he's driving, he could hurt somebody. I don't want him out there on the road.
You talk to him then. See if you can get through to him.
But that's our job. You and I have to talk to him. Hey, Ben, what's going on?
Hey, you're so smart, you dock it. Man's got to be crazy to be up at this hour anyway.
Do you think this guy's in control?
Ben, come down here a minute.
Look, it's just early and I didn't get much sleep. I'm fine.
Well, we think you should hang it up for today. I don't want you driving it.
Backing into the dock like that is amateur hour.
I'm fine. Now get off my back.
No, you're not fine, Ben. And before you get behind that wheel, we want you to come with us for a reasonable cause testing. You know the policy.
Huh. You're serious about this, then? Just let me grab my logbook, okay?
Yeah, that wasn't so hard. You just said something about this earlier.
Hey, Ben!
I'm fine. I'm gonna do my route as usual. You can't send me home on a work day. And you two clowns don't tell me about trucking until you've been around long enough to know something about it.
Listen, if you get out on that highway...
The driver's behavior caught the supervisor's attention. It was different from his usual behavior. They observed him stumbling out of the truck cab and slurring his speech. His clothes were also rumpled. He was unshaven, and he was irritable. The main thing to remember is that in order to send an employee for a test, there must be definitive signs and symptoms observed by trained supervisors. First, identify abnormal behavior. Document and confirm it with another supervisor, then confront the individual. Identify, document, confirm, confront. Testing for alcohol can only be based on observable and articulated behaviors related to possible alcohol use, body odor, speech, behavior, and appearance. In the workplace, we teach employees about health effects and safety. We ask employees to be observant regarding substance misuse by their co-workers. How you react when an employee comes to you with a concern regarding a co-worker is very important. Let's look at this situation with Perry and Stan.
Joe, take a look at this. What's that look like to you?
That looks like a joint to me. You better get rid of it before you get in trouble.
I'm not going to get in trouble. I'm going to turn that in. John shouldn't be smoking dope in his truck.
You'll just be getting in trouble. Just get rid of it.
I'm going to give it to Stan. He'll know what to do with it. Stan, look what I found in John's truck. I always wondered about that guy, and now we know.
Perry, come on in. Close the door.
So what are you going to do about this? Are you going to take him into the clinic tomorrow, or what?
Well, it's a little premature to make that decision right now. The first thing we need to determine is what exactly that material is.
We know what this is.
The first order of business is to fill out this chain of custody form and to send that to the lab to be tested. Thank you. Now, you and I need to fill this out together. But before we do that, let's talk about what happened this afternoon. You found this? Where?
I found that under the seat in John's truck. I went out to the yard, and I got the truck. I drove it into the shop. I got out, tuned it up, and I was getting back in the truck, and I noticed the joint under John's seat.
Was there anybody else around when you discovered this item?
Yeah, Phil was there. I told him all about it.
Okay. And then what did you do right after that?
I picked it up and came here.
Okay. Now, the truck, it was out in the yard before you brought it into the shop?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it locked up while it was sitting out there?
No. John always leaves his keys in it.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, There's a few things I need to think over here.
Look, the guy's a dope addict. What more do you want?
Now, wait a minute. Now, let's not make any accusations. We don't know what the substance is yet. And we don't know exactly where it came from. Now, I'm going to conduct a very thorough investigation and do what has to be done to protect everyone. Now, let's turn this around. What if it were you? Would it be any different?
I guess not. What else do we need to do?
In any complaint situation, both employees have rights. The employee being accused has constitutional and employee rights. The employee with the concern has a right to feel safe at work. In order for you to decide if testing is necessary in this situation, you must do some fact-finding. Part of fact-finding is an evaluation of the entire situation. How about the employee being accused? What about his or her job performance? Are there patterns of absences, customer complaints? Is the employee with the concern a reasonable person? Could she or he have a personality conflict or an ulterior motive? Answers to these questions are necessary before a manager or supervisor can determine the need for testing. Remember, the rules for testing exist to protect the public safety, but they are tailored to respect a driver's reasonable expectation to privacy. Without signs, symptoms, or direct observation, there may not be evidence for reasonable suspicion testing. However, no worker's concern should be ignored. It's important to continually investigate a situation by observation, supervision, and evaluation. The balance of public safety and individual rights is clearly part of post-accident testing as well. The regulations concerning post-accident testing set a criteria to identify specific situations for testing after a commercial vehicle accident. Let's look at a supervisor and risk manager discussing what to do after a commercial vehicle accident. We'll stop the tape so you can talk about what you would do in the same situation.
You know, this is our chance to test Jerry. He's really been a problem lately, and it seems like his number is never going to come up in the random selection. I'm going to take him into the clinic and take care of this right now.
No, let's talk about this. I mean, we don't know enough about the accident. I mean, was Jerry, was his behavior abnormal after it happened, or what?
He was pretty upset and worried about the other passenger of the car that ran into him.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, was he showing any signs, any symptoms? You know, like the things they teach in our substance abuse program here, the supervisory training program we do here.
No, he looked and acted normal as far as that goes. As a matter of fact, he didn't have his usual flip attitude.
Did the officer give him a ticket?
No, it was clearly the other guy's fault.
Then I'm not sure we have the right to ask Jerry to take a test. From what I know about the regulations, we don't have the criteria the DOT sets to require a test. I'll double check, and I'll call the substance abuse experts and see what they say.
That's good to me.
Okay.
Then get back to me, all right?
I will.
Okay.
The regulations set a standard of consistency for testing after an accident. Without that consistency, there could be discrimination in the testing. Employees have the right to equal treatment when it comes to testing. Know the criteria for testing. In the next action scene, we witness an employee and manager in a situation concerned with random testing. Take a look and think about what you would do.
Thank you.
Dave, how's it going?
Good, Steve. How are you?
Pretty good.
David,
Yeah, Mary.
sorry to get you on your way out. There's something I need you to do for me this afternoon. Can you handle it?
Well, I'm just on my way home. What is it, Penny?
David, you were selected by the computer for a random test today. I made an appointment for you at the clinic. They're expecting you in about 20 minutes.
Not again. Mary, come on. Why do you keep picking on me? You know, I've known you for a long time, and you know I don't do drugs. You've got 2 other negative tests to prove that. I do my work, Mary. You know, I thought you liked me.
Doesn't have anything to do with your work or whether I like you or not. In fact, you're one of our best drivers. The computer gave you a number and picked you at random just like it did those 2 other times. It doesn't keep track of who it's picked before, and you have an equal chance to be picked every time. It's just like the lottery. How many times has a number 27 come up lately when those ping pong balls start whirling around? Here's your chain of custody. They're expecting you at the clinic.
Mary, I really don't have time to do this today. Why can't I go tomorrow morning?
It's part of the DOT regulations. Once I tell you you've been selected, you have to leave immediately, not tomorrow. Refusing to take a test is interpreted the same as a positive result. And you know the company policy on this.
Mary, why don't you just give me a break?
David, you really should be on your way.
The objective of an unannounced test is to deter the use of drugs and alcohol in the workplace. In your role as a supervisor, you need to understand the idea of random selection. Individuals must be reassured that the selection cannot be manipulated. Random selection offers everyone in the pool the same opportunity every time.